Victory at the polls can come down to how successful a candidate's party was at energizing voters on the ground. Leaders of the Arizona Democratic and Republican parties take that task very seriously and are already focused on winning in 2020. In Phoenix, we sat down with Arizona Republican Party Chairman Kelli Ward and Arizona Democratic Party Chairman Felicia Rodolini to learn more about their approaches along with the big takeaways from the 2018 midterms. We begin with Ward, a former state lawmaker who was elected to the head of the party in January, several months after a second unsuccessful primary run for U.S. Senate. When you took this job or were voted into this job, some people, I think, were surprised and called it a bit of an upset. What does it say about where the members of the Arizona Republican Party want this party to go versus where it's been?
Yeah, I think that my election to the position of chairman of the Republican Party of Arizona really is a signal of a bright new day in politics for Republicans in Arizona. For too long, there was a lot of power concentrated in the hands of the few, and I think that returning that power to the majority of Republicans is very important to the Republican electorate. They also, I think, saw in me the chance to unify the party finally. The Republican Party across the board, across the country, has had some fracturing over time, and it's time to bring it back together. We support so many of the same things. We stand up for faith and family and freedom, and we want to bring everybody into the fold. It isn't about taking away from one group to give to another. It's about spreading that out so that we all work together, we don't waste one drop of Republican talent, and we put in excellent policies. We get those policies in place at all levels of government that are going to allow the people of Arizona to prosper.
For those of us who like to read tea leaves, political tea leaves,
Yes.
President Trump won Arizona by just under 4%. Then now Senator McSally, when she was running in 18, strongly supported the president, but she lost to now Senator Sinema. Are there any tea leaves that anybody can read about the Republican Party and voters in Arizona based on all of that?
I mean, I think 2016 was an entity all to itself. It was something that many people never thought would happen, that there would ever be a President Donald J. Trump. And his election was amazing, and it energized a lot of people in the country who really had lost hope maybe towards the political process. And so we're going to continue with that momentum. And I think that one of the reasons the president was not able to be stronger in Arizona is we had two senators who were not supporting him. And both of those senators are now gone. So now we've got Senator McSally, who is with the president, and we've got a congressional delegation that is with the president, and we've got an electorate that is with the president, because when they look at their lives right now and they say, was I better off 3 years ago, or am I better off now? Almost everyone across the board is saying they are better off now and they want more of what President Trump and our Republicans across the board at the federal level and the state level have been delivering. So I think we're going to be very successful in 2020.
As we wrap this up, if you had to sum up what has to happen in 2020 for Republicans to pick up a majority in the legislature, pick up a majority in the congressional delegation again, pick up a majority in the Senate representation of Arizona. So how do you do all that?
Right. Well, we concentrate on the things that make us strong, and that is the economy and making sure that our economy is strong, that taxes are low, that people are keeping more of their own money in their pockets. That is a Republican ideal. We don't think the government can save everything. Just like Reagan said, the government isn't going to solve your problems. Sometimes bigger government is the problem. We need to shrink that down so that we have more control over our own money. We have to make sure that our communities are secure, that our states are safe, and that is border security. We're going to have to concentrate on that. As a physician, I know that the healthcare issue is going to be hot. We have to make people understand that big government healthcare means less healthcare for everyone. We want the free market to work so that people who are in the safety net get the care that they need, and people who are not inside the safety net are able to have the health care that they deserve, and they don't have to wait around for a big government entity to deliver deliver something and then expect them to be thankful for it. If we concentrate on those issues that make us strong and we stay away from the things that are distractions that many times the media brings up or our political opposition brings up, we are going to go into 2020 very strong, and I think we're going to be unbeatable. We're going to get majorities at the state level. We're going to regain at least some of the seats in the House. I'd like to see us regain a significant amount in the House, and we're going to stay strong in the Senate.
Last thing, going back to the Senate race, right now Senator McSally is the incumbent in that, but if a Republican either comes to you or you get wind that a Republican wants to challenge her and we're going to could have a primary, do you step in and say, no, we're just going for the general, or do you let the cards fall as they may in the primary?
Right. Well, as Republicans, we do not anoint our leaders. My hope is that Senator McSally becomes so strong that no one wants to come in and take her on, that she becomes that unbeatable force that's working hand in hand with President Trump to make things happen. And I think that once that occurs, we aren't going to have any wind of primaries coming out. It isn't my job as the chairman to pick our nominees. My job is to support Republicans and make sure that we win general elections so that those great ideas that we have can be put into policy so that people out there are able to enjoy the benefits of those great Republican policies.
All right, well, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.